sau có 2 tuần thôi, chúng ta sẽ giảm ngay cho em là 5 kg rồi, mà không cần phải kiêng khem khổ sở quá nhiều. Tiếp tục ạ, sang đến tuần thứ 4 mọi người đã giảm trực tiếp đó là 8 kg nhá. Sang đến tuần thứ 6 mọi người sẽ giảm đó là 10 kg. Và sau 8 tuần các chị em sẽ giảm từ 15 cho đến 20 kg cho em Trang. Và đặc biệt này, nó không tăng cân trở lại, không gây tình trạng mất nước và không gây mệt mỏi cho chị em mình đâu nha. Chị em nào ạ, chúng ta đang muốn giảm 5 đến 10 cân mà không cần ăn kiêng khổ sở, không cần tập luyện vất vả, giảm cân nhưng mà vẫn khỏe mạnh, da dẻ hồng hào thì nhất định là phải xem hết buổi livestream ngày hôm nay của em nhé. Một giải pháp giảm cân hiệu quả, an toàn và khoa học. Giải pháp này thì đã giúp chính bản thân em và rất nhiều người đã giảm cân thành công và giữ được vóc dáng đúng như mong ước rồi. Và bây giờ không để mọi người chờ đợi lâu hơn nữa thì xin được giới thiệu tới tất cả nhà mình luôn, đó là sản phẩm Nanufit, cứu tinh cho các chị em chúng ta cần giảm cân và giảm mỡ đấy ạ. Và cái ưu điểm của em Nanufit này thì rất là nhiều. Đầu tiên phải kể đến này, nó rất là ít calo, giàu protein, giúp chúng ta no lâu và giảm cảm giác thèm ăn nhá. Bên cạnh đó hỗ trợ đốt mỡ này, ngăn chặn hấp thu chất béo vào cơ thể. Nó không gây ra cái tình trạng là bị mất nước giống như những cái loại thuốc giảm cân khác mọi người nhá. Lưu ý cái phần đấy cho Trang. Bên cạnh đấy này, duy trì cơ bắp ạ, không bị chảy xệ, da dẻ vẫn cứ là săn chắc. Với cái cơ chế hoạt động đó là 3 trong 1, nó sẽ giúp giảm cân an toàn hiệu quả. Đầu tiên này, giảm mỡ không giảm nước. Thì Nanufit chứa DNF10 chiết xuất từ nấm men Hàn Quốc, giúp giảm cảm giác thèm ăn và kích thích cơ thể đốt mỡ tự nhiên. Điều thứ hai đó là duy trì cơ bắp và da săn chắc. Thì nhờ vào đạm thực vật cao cấp cộng với lại vitamin và khoáng chất sẽ giúp cơ thể chúng ta đủ dinh dưỡng mà không mất cơ khi giảm cân. Và thứ ba, hỗ trợ đốt mỡ tự nhiên. Chứa EGCG từ trà xanh, tảo biển cà phê xanh sẽ giúp đốt cháy mỡ bụng, đùi, bắp tay và giúp vòng eo của chị em mình trở nên săn chắc, thon gọn hơn. Đặc biệt Nanufit ứng dụng công nghệ phân giải dược chất thành các phân tử siêu nhỏ ở dạng nano sẽ giúp dưỡng chất thẩm thấu một cách nhanh chóng vào cơ thể và đạt được hiệu quả cao nhất. Và không chỉ là hiệu quả trong việc hỗ trợ giảm mỡ máu, kiểm soát cân nặng và cải thiện sức khỏe thôi đâu. Nanufit còn đạt đầy đủ chứng nhận chất lượng từ các tổ chức uy tín như chứng nhận FDA Hoa Kỳ, đáp ứng tiêu chuẩn an toàn thực phẩm quốc tế tiêu chuẩn HACCP, quy trình sản xuất nghiêm ngặt, đảm bảo vệ sinh và an toàn thực phẩm, hay là chứng nhận ISO 9001, hệ thống quản lý chất lượng đạt chuẩn toàn cầu, được Bộ Y tế cấp phép lưu hành và cam kết an toàn tuyệt đối cho người sử dụng, an toàn cho mọi đối tượng, kể cả là trẻ em từ 3 tuổi mọi người nhé. Và đặc biệt rất phù hợp cho người lớn này, người cao tuổi, người béo phì, người có mỡ máu cao hoặc là người đang bị tiểu đường. Nanufit không chỉ giúp giảm cân thôi đâu mà còn cung cấp nguồn dinh dưỡng thiết yếu cho cơ thể, phù hợp cả với những người chúng ta bận rộn và ít có thời gian vận động nhá. Dạ Ánh Rio có câu hỏi để tư vấn mình cách dùng nhé. Dạ rồi chị gái ơi, riêng về cách sử dụng của sản phẩm này thì cực kỳ là đơn giản luôn mọi người ạ. Chị nào mà chúng ta uống loãng thì mình pha cho em mỗi một lần nhá, là một gói này tương đương với 180ml nước. Còn chị nào thích uống đặc hơn một chút xíu thì mình sẽ giảm lượng nước đi, đó là 150ml cho em Trang. Mình có thể dùng để thay thế cho bữa ăn sáng cũng được này, bữa trưa, bữa tối hay là bất kỳ vào thời điểm nào trong ngày đều được luôn. Với cái lượng calo nó rất là thấp, chưa tới 100 calo đâu, nhưng vẫn đảm bảo dinh dưỡng và năng lượng để chúng ta có thể hoạt động cả ngày dài mà không hề gây ra tình trạng mệt mỏi nhá. Và sản phẩm này thì sẽ có 2 vị, chúng ta sẽ có trà xanh này, bên cạnh đấy có cacao, rất là thơm ngon và dễ uống. Như bản thân em Trang thì nói thật với mọi người là em rất thích cái vị cacao này, tại vì nó thơm và ngon lắm luôn mọi người ạ. Thì chỉ chưa đến 2 phút thôi, các bạn đã có luôn một bữa ăn thơm ngon và đủ chất rồi, và lại còn ít calo, giúp bạn no lâu này mà không hề bị tích mỡ. Và cái sản phẩm này nhá, không chứa đường, cho nên kể cả những người chúng ta bị tiểu đường hay là bị huyết áp cao là cũng có thể yên tâm sử dụng được nha. Quá tuyệt vời đúng không mọi người? Và đặc biệt duy nhất tại phiên livestream ngày hôm nay của em Trang lại đang có chương trình ưu đãi cực sốc khi chúng ta mua càng nhiều thì giá càng yêu, dành tặng cho những chị em nào hay là anh cũng được nha. Chúng ta nhanh tay để lại comment cho em Trang. Ngày hôm nay cứ mua 2 hộp là em giảm trực tiếp cho mình 50.000 đồng rồi. Mua 3 hộp là em tặng ngay 1 hộp. Mua 5 hộp em Trang tặng ngay 2 hộp cho mình. Và ngoài ra ưu đãi cực sốc chỉ cần mua cho em Trang 2 hộp Nanufit trở lên thôi, anh chị sẽ được tặng thêm một bình lắc xinh xắn như thế này nữa mọi người hả? Quá tiện lợi để chúng ta có thể pha cho mình một ly Nanufit đầy đủ dinh dưỡng đúng không nào? Và đặc biệt là tất cả các đơn đặt hàng trong ngày hôm nay là em Trang miễn phí giao hàng toàn quốc cho mình luôn. Nhưng mà lưu ý cho em này, chương trình áp dụng cho 50 khách hàng đầu tiên thôi nhá. Đến người thứ 51 xin phép là không có còn khuyến mại nữa. Chị ơi cho em 3 hộp. Rồi ok Thu Trang chị nhận đơn nhá. Inbox rồi ạ. Dạ rồi em có thấy comment của mình này. Anh Tuấn Anh cho mình 3 hộp ship về Hà Tĩnh. Ok anh Giai em chốt đơn cho mình nhá. Hải Linh Nguyễn ship về Hóc Môn thì bao lâu nhận được? Hóc Môn thì cũng rất là nhanh, đâu đó chỉ tầm 2 đến 3 ngày thôi là mình có sản phẩm mình dùng rồi nhá. Ánh Quỳnh cho mình 6 hộp, đuôi số điện thoại 241. Dạ rồi, em cảm ơn ạ. Mimon này đặt 2 hộp về Hưng Yên, em nhận đơn. Trời ơi, rất nhiều bình luận luôn. Thế này hôm nay là trộm vía quá rồi. Em nói chung là nhiều comment em cũng không có đọc được hết, nhưng mọi người lưu ý giúp em, chỉ cần đúng cú pháp thôi, đó là số lượng và số điện thoại là chúng ta chắc chắn có đơn rồi nhá. Vậy thì Nanufit không chỉ là giúp chúng ta giảm cân mà còn giúp chúng ta có thể khỏe mạnh này, trẻ trung và tràn đầy năng lượng. Đã dùng là giảm, vậy nên ai đang thừa cân, béo phì, đã thử nhiều phương pháp rồi mà không có hiệu quả, hoặc là chúng ta bị mệt mỏi này, bị đau dạ dày khi mà dùng sản phẩm khác, thì hãy sử dụng ngay Nanufit nhé. Đã dùng chắc chắn giảm, nếu không giảm, nhãn hàng cam kết hoàn tiền 100% cho người sử dụng hoàn toàn miễn phí. Như vậy thì mọi người yên tâm chưa ạ? Nhanh tay đặt hàng giúp em, không là kẻo một tí nữa thôi là chúng ta hết ưu đãi anh chị nhá. Comment thật nhanh cho em Trang này, số lượng kèm theo đó là số điện thoại, em lên đơn cho mọi người nhá.
Lúc đầu thì cũng hoài nghi lắm vì trên thị trường có quá nhiều sản phẩm giảm cân, nhưng khi thấy chuyên gia và nhiều mẹ bỉm khác review nên là mình quyết định thử. Chỉ với 1 ly Nanufit mỗi sáng thì mình thấy rõ sự thay đổi từng ngày. Cảm giác thèm ăn vặt biến mất này, cơ thể tràn đầy năng lượng hơn, không còn uể oải như trước. Đặc biệt là thành phần hoàn toàn từ thiên nhiên, từ các loại hạt cao cấp như là yến mạch này, óc chó, hạnh nhân, maca, sa chi, rất an toàn cho mẹ sau sinh hoặc là đang cho con bú. Một gói nhỏ 25g giàu protein, vitamin nhưng lại chưa tới 100 calo nên là giúp mình kiểm soát được lượng calo nạp vào. Thích nhất là được ăn uống thoải mái cùng gia đình mà cân nặng vẫn giảm đều. Mình thấy rằng cơ chế giảm cân của Nanufit rất hiệu quả và khác biệt. Sản phẩm này giúp giảm mỡ, không giảm nước. Sau 3 tuần sử dụng thì mình giảm tới 6kg, vòng bụng giảm được gần 10cm. Quần áo cũ đã mặc lại vừa, người nhẹ nhõm hơn, tinh thần cũng vui vẻ thoải mái hơn rất là nhiều. Không cần phải tập luyện khắc nghiệt, không cần phải kiêng khem cực khổ mà vẫn có thể lấy lại được vóc dáng. Giờ đây thì mình tự tin hơn rất là nhiều, không còn tự ti khi đi ra ngoài, cũng không còn cảm giác mặc cảm về cơ thể của mình nữa.
Mình thì cũng đã từng loay hoay với rất là nhiều phương pháp rồi, nhưng mà từ khi mình uống Nanufit nha thì mọi thứ đã thay đổi hoàn toàn. Mình không cần phải nhịn ăn, không mệt mỏi, cơ thể khỏe khoắn mà mỡ bụng này, mỡ nội tạng đã giảm hẳn nha. Và đặc biệt là da dẻ của mình này lúc nào cũng hồng hào, tình trạng táo bón cũng hết. Mùi thơm tự nhiên, uống rất ngon. Mỗi sáng mình chỉ cần uống 1 ly Nanufit thôi là no lâu, cũng không thèm ăn vặt, cân nặng thì giảm đều mà tràn đầy sức sống luôn nhá. Chỉ sau một thời gian sử dụng thì vòng bụng của mình đã giảm rõ rệt rồi, cơ thể của mình cảm giác là rất là săn chắc này. Kể cả khi mà mình ngừng sử dụng thì cũng không có bị tăng cân trở lại. Và có lẽ đây là một cái điều mình thích nhất ở sản phẩm này. Mình đã thử và thành công rồi, còn các bạn thì sao nhỉ? Đừng giảm cân sai cách nữa, hãy để Nanufit giúp bạn giảm cân khoa học, khỏe mạnh và bền vững nhá.
Once again, it gives you all the information you need. And when we look down here to overcoat time, we're looking at 15 minutes before we can go to clear coat. So we've got a 5 to 10 minute flash off and then 15 minutes before clear coat. And I think this just highlights that if you've got one bracket to do and you're going to do 2 coats of epoxy, 2 coats of colour, black on black you probably only need 1, and then 2 coats of clear, all those wait times, you've probably got about 2.5 hours. So if you take a part to your panel beater and ask him to paint one part, understand why the guy is going to frown on you, because it's going to take him 2 to 3 hours of process and it's hard to walk away and go and do something else. So ideally you try and fill the booth up and do it all at the same time. Now the reason I'm using a clear coat is this particular product. So there's a semi-gloss and a matte in the Deltron obviously, and it's D8115-117. This product was developed for all of these matte cars that have come out. When you look at the sheet here, it'll actually show you Lamborghini, Mercedes, Smart, BMW. So all these cars that are coming out from the factory with a full body matte finish, that product's got to be very durable and it's got to obviously match what the factory had done. So this is PPG's product, and by mixing 50-50 of these two you end up with that factory look. I like that look for things like what I'm doing now, suspension and brackets, but I also find probably within a week of it being painted it goes very, very hard and is very durable for using on parts like I'm doing now. So that's why I'm using a clear coat, and it's probably a little bit more expensive than if you're just going to go and do a direct gloss with a bit of mattening base, but this will give you a better job. There you go, so that's a really nice durable finish, and a nice satin appearance. Really does come up nice. Taking the opportunity to come up to PPG this morning up here at the training centre and have a talk to John. Morning, John.
Morning.
So we spent about an hour in the traffic this morning, which was fun. You love Sydney, don't you?
Yeah, it was great.
But I mean, that's part of what happened. So the reason I wanted to come up here is there's this whole myth about the products that we all use in the industry, and I really want to have a chat to you about, we're at that stage now where we're doing epoxies and sealing all these different substrates, as you guys call them, which is, you know, the steel and the aluminium and all those things. And I've always found it interesting, and I hear a lot of debate about the fact that there's so many different products.
Yeah.
And I'd like to get a bit of feedback from you. And the reason I'm talking to John is John and I have worked together for 25, 30 years on various projects, and John's been at PPG that long, but he's also a qualified spray painter.
Yeah.
And then worked in the training part of PPG, and then product development, and of course now in sales. So he's got a lot of knowledge and a lot of background.
I think she hit with some rain though. I'm about to go ahead and upload this video. It's supposed to upload over the weekend. Today, Monday. So I'm gonna go ahead and finalize it and drop it. And I know y'all be on my ass about these videos, but your boy be working, dog. When it's time to make some money, I gotta go get that money. I be doing this shit for fun, and most of the time this shit costs money. But yeah, I got to have me a house, dog. Alright. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think, dog. Let me know. And I'm gonna get back with y'all on the next video.
Well, I think this would be a first. So we've got two cars in the workshop on rotisseries at the same time, because I normally only do one car at a time, and I only have the one rotisserie, but Adam and Kylie have the same one. So they've brought theirs down with all their bracketry that they made to put the car on it, and the reason I'm doing that now is I need to get the chassis painted, so that's over here. So it's in bare metal, so I need to really get that sealed up. So we're going to pull the front off it, and I'll get that into CF black epoxy, and because it's got to go back over once we get the underside done. So what you've seen us do inside the car, we're now going to do underneath, and then we'll seal that up with urethane before it goes into stone guard. So I'll get some of that done this week with Steve, and I've taken the opportunity this week, Darren's here this week for a couple of days, so I've taken the opportunity to get the outside finished, a lot of the little bits and pieces in around the door jambs, and now we'll get it up on its side and get underneath done, and then it goes into poly before it goes back together to get blocked out again. So along with all that underside of the car, what we're in the process of doing is cleaning up all of the suspension components. So things like this that are bare metal, so we'll give that a good clean up first to make sure we get all the greases and oils off it, because you can actually feel it's like quite greasy. And then once again we'll go CF black, and then I'll put some base coat and then some matte or satin clear. So we'll show you that process as well. Righto, so I said I'd show you the process. So these are all those parts. So some had paint on them that sanded up really good, and others, and this one here was the same. So it's even almost like an E-coat. So I've just sanded those, and then the others are all bare metal that we've either taken the paint off them or they were just cast. Now, I'm going to repeat myself over and over and over on this show, but not everybody watches every episode. Cleanliness. So prep sole, they've been done already. I'm ready to paint now, so I'm going to go over and wipe them all again, and then I'm going to go over with a tack rag or a tack cloth. This is the Mercer brand one. I never realised just how big an influence these can have on the quality of your work. So you go over and blow them off with air, and then paint them, because I'm going to wet on wet this through 3 stages. Any little tiny bit of dust is going to build up and get worse. So I'll run over with compressed air and a tack rag and wipe all of those parts down, and then I'll start with the products. So I'm going to use the CF black epoxy, then we'll go base coat, and then we'll go with a satin clear. this is a good one where you've got to be careful. So we've got the data sheet, but when we read here again, and what I've already showed you is the flash off time's only 3 to 5 minutes. If you're using as a wet on wet paint system, which is what we're doing, we've got to allow 30 minutes air dry at 25 before top coating. So I'm going to use base coat now, which is a top coat. So now I need to wait 30 minutes before I can now apply that base coat over the top of the epoxy. Righto, so more data sheets. So the base coat is, you can mix that two ways. You can mix it just as a normal base coat, which is half thinner, half paint. But you can also, as a standard, but you can also activate. So you can actually add a hardener to it. Now, we did that a bit with some of the work we did on Boss XC. Helps with adhesion a little bit. Just doing brackets and things like I'm doing now, I'll just use the normal standard mix, but you can activate it so that it will go off. But if you've got any paint left over, then it's obviously going to dry and be
metal speaker mesh in them, but I'm gonna paint it black. I think that's the move. See how they jump flow over the side? It's wicked. That's what I was saying about all the imperfections that it had. Like this filled all that up. I knew it was gonna come out good on this piece because this is like the flat surface piece, but these came out better than I expected. Especially this one, I like that one. Yeah, I can tell I used some of the paint that I painted Summer Rain with. Put that in the epoxy. I had tried to put a little bit of the glow in the dark effect, but last night I really couldn't tell if it was working, so. But I might end the video off right here. Go ahead and upload it. Let y'all check that thing out. But yeah, that came out decent. Well, I like that. The other side flowing too. Yes, sir. You see how it still got the drips down there? They ain't all the way hard. It's gonna get rock hard. The epoxy resin get rock hard. Solid. But I just went on ahead and unmasked everything, so when these pieces do get rock hard, I can go through, sand them all down smooth, get everything feather edge smooth, and then I paint in here all the parts where the paint peeled up when I was peeling the epoxy off and the tape. I paint in there, but man, these came out nice as hell. And it was fun to do. Like I said, man, Stone Cold countertop epoxy, them videos be popping up on YouTube all the time. So I always wanted to use this shit. And this shit is fun, came out good. I just need a better setup. It's too fucking compact up here on my balcony. That's why your boy been working hard. I'm telling you, house coming soon, garage coming soon. That way I'll be able to drop this content at least 2-3 videos a week, dog. I'm telling you. I just ain't got the space to do it at the crib. And Summer Rain all the way across town at my uncle's house. Summer Rain is definitely a show car. A lot of this stuff I wouldn't do to other cars, but just because that's my baby, she a show car, man, I'm making her look awesome. And this is cool as hell. So the wood grain gotta go. All the little wood grain that's on the dashboard and on the doors, I got something for that too. So there ain't gonna be no wood grain in her. Gots to go. I know that light. Y'all don't say nothing about my drips now. She ain't finalized, but I'm gonna have to let her sit for about another day or so. They dry enough for me to take in the house. I'm gonna take them in the crib. We'll find a corner in here, let them sit for a day, let them get nice and warm, heated up, and then I'll do the top coat. I have them ready by the next video when I be back over there at Aunt's house getting busy. I got a lot to do. I got that Dakota Digital. I got all my music. Only thing I got all my music other than the 415s. I still gotta order the subs. But I got all the amps. I got the batteries. Got all the wires. The head unit. It's go time. And I'm still waiting on the rotating assembly from Texas Speed. I think I'm gonna call their ass today. Today makes 6 weeks. I was gonna wait till at least 8, but hell, I might give them a holler today. See what they got going on. But that dash, hell, man. I need better setup, better lighting, man. Look at this shit, it's hard. Wait, I sand them all down smooth. Hit them with that top coat, that matte finish. Oh man, Throw the bezels in there, speakers in there. The top part, all right, so the top part's on. All right, so Steve Davis, he sell the ones, I think he make them out of wood, and they got the light in them. Whoo, I got to have some. Got to have some. Yes, sir. Because another reason why I want them, for the back, I'm gonna see if he can make it the way I can put my window switch right here, cause that's how it is on the front ones. The window switch is up here, and then these switches right here, well, the lock switch is up here, and the window switches and stuff is right there. But yeah, I'm gonna see if he can put my window switch in that thing. But yeah, man, tell me what y'all think about them, man. I try not to do too much color. I got carried away with that green over here. It's called like a blue-green. I ain't want to go too many colors. So I just threw that green in there with that blue, that black, and that silver. Yeah. I'm about to start pouring. Stone coat countertops. That was a lot. YouTube, I don't got everything unmasked. This came out nice. Boy, y'all know I like trying stuff. Y'all know I like trying stuff. And this came out nice. Look like an exotic piece of damn marble. That thing gonna be killer on the dashboard. Yes, sir. The door panels, the speaker pods. Now they all shiny now, but I got a top coat that I gotta put on them, which is a matte finish. So it won't be shiny. You'll still be able to see all the metallics and all the designs, but it's gonna have a matte finish. I gotta let it dry a little bit more, get harder. But yeah, once it get harder, I gotta go around, feather edge some of these parts, clean up and know where the little door bezels go. But man, tell me that ain't cool. Stone coat countertop epoxy. Yes, sir. I'm gonna go in there and paint all these little spots where the epoxy stuck to it and rip the paint up. Paint all this back black. Even though the speaker had most of it covered, I just wanted to look uniform. I messed these speaker grills up, and then I had broke this one. So I think what I'm gonna do, I might try to cut these out and make one of the metal pieces. Put the arm.
And seen a lot of these products evolve over the years. And the thing I'd like to talk to you about, John, is right from the start where we go acid etchers, epoxy primers, CF primers, high build primers, there's all these different things. So if we can initially to talk about mild steel firstly, and that process of those different primers that you have, and why we're using them.
Yeah, look, I think where I'm fortunate is I get to see the product in development phase and understand why is it we need to bring out a new epoxy or an etch primer. And a lot of it's based on either a customer requirement, customer request, substrate request. You know, substrates keep changing.
And if I can cut you off for a second, when you're talking customer, you're talking Ford or
customer
GM or someone.
Customer is Ford, it's Howard Astle, it's the guy in the panel shop, it's the guy.
Obviously, you're not going to create a product just for me, but realistically,
for the Howard Astles,
types,
that's right. Okay. Who are out there, you know, building cars and you know, recreating cars and restoring cars. So, you know, if you look at a car that's being restored, you know, you might have bare steel, you might have galvanized steel, aluminium, fiberglass. So it's difficult to say, look, just use that one product and that's all you'll have to use, because you know, you'll say, look, John, I'm doing a car inside. I just want to put an epoxy on that's shiny and not have to touch it. So, okay, I can't give you this one, but I can give you this one.
Yep.
Because this will do what you require. So it's about making sure we've got a product that will cater to what the people that are restoring the cars, repairing the cars, rebuilding the cars, what is it they need. And
or building a truck, because I mean this is where a lot of the products come from. So
right.
Just if we can try and, you know, shorten it, but like an acid etch.
Yeah.
Explain to me an acid etch.
So
just explain to these guys.
So there's a little bit of misunderstanding as well in terminology. So people go, you didn't use an etch. So an etch, people are saying something that will stick to the metal. Okay, so an acid etch primer is designed especially for aluminium and hard to stick to substrates, surfaces. So
like a galvan, so like a fuel tank.
Fuel tank, right? You know, if you're doing an old Bentley or an old you know, relic that's made from complete aluminium surface, you would put an acid etch because you would get better adhesion to that particular substrate. You know, people want to paint engines and brake components and all different types of.
So if you use an acid etch, what then goes over that? Because being an acid, obviously there's limitations in what can go over.
An acid etch you would use and then prime over it. You know, but if you want to use body filler, you wouldn't mix it with acid etch primers. They're not very compatible. The actual.
So if I've got an old fuel tank and it's galvo, and I acid etch it, and I want to put some filler in it, what do I do then? Epoxy over the acid etch?
Epoxy over the acid etch.
Okay.
So it would be a two-step process.
Yep.
And then you would be safe.
Okay. And obviously we can go and read the data sheets about when and how long.
So if you're using an acid etch or an epoxy, basically you want it to stick to the surface. So an acid etch is good because if the surface is, you know, 95% clean, it'll work its way through and stick. Epoxy's like a really good clean surface to stick to.
And
but they both do the same
explained to
thing.
me before, epoxy is more like a glue.
Yes.
Than something that's biting in.
That's right. So it sticks to the surface, it bonds chemically versus an acid etch.
Okay, so epoxy now is a word we see a lot of.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes, just if we can try and, you know, shorten it, but like an acid etch.
Yeah.
Explain to me an acid etch.
So
just explain to these guys.
So there's a little bit of misunderstanding as well in terminology. So people go, you didn't use an etch. So an etch, people are saying something that will stick to the metal. Okay, so an acid etch primer is designed especially for aluminium and hard to stick to substrates, surfaces. So
like a galvan, so like a fuel tank.
Fuel tank, right? You know, if you're doing an old Bentley or an old you know, relic that's made from complete aluminium surface, you would put an acid etch because you would get better adhesion to that particular substrate. You know, people want to paint engines and brake components and all different types of.
So if you use an acid etch, what then goes over that? Because being an acid, obviously there's limitations in what can go over.
An acid etch you would use and then prime over it. You know, but if you want to use body filler, you wouldn't mix it with acid etch primers. They're not very compatible. The actual.
So if I've got an old fuel tank and it's galvo, and I acid etch it, and I want to put some filler in it, what do I do then? Epoxy over the acid etch?
Epoxy over the acid etch.
Okay.
So it would be a two-step process. And then you would be safe.
Okay. And obviously we can go and read the data sheets about when and how long.
So if you're using an acid etch or an epoxy, basically you want it to stick to the surface. So an acid etch is good because if the surface is, you know, 95% clean, it'll work its way through and stick. Epoxy's like a really good clean surface to stick to.
And
but they both do the same thing.
You explained to me before, epoxy is more like a glue.
Yes.
Than something that's biting in.
That's right. So it sticks to the surface, it bonds chemically versus an acid etch.
Okay, so epoxy now is a word we see a lot of.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes part of a bigger name, and sometimes it's just epoxy.
Yeah.
So I know with the products I've been or have used, so there's the CF Black I use a lot of if I'm doing brackets and things, which comes out of the industrial, so trailers and truck chassis and those sorts of things. So what's the structure of that?
So there's two types of epoxies. There's an amine, which is like araldite glue, and then there's the one that we use in the custom world, which has an isocyanate hardener. So just quickly, CF is chromate free.
Right.
Chromates were banned.
Yep.
So you have to have a chromate-free product, and that's what the CF stands for.
Okay.
Nothing
there
more.
you go. I learn something every day.
So something easy, right? So if you have an amine cured epoxy like an araldite, you can put a coat down and you can paint over it. So in the truck world, they use these type of epoxies to put colour over the epoxy. With our world, we want to put body filler on. So these are a bit stickier and chewier. What we want is something that's harder and we can sand, so we use the isocyanate-based hardener. So DP616.
Righto. So that solves that. So CF is great, and I just did a whole lot of brackets and things for the muscle car yesterday actually, and I like that because I can then put base coat and then use the satin clear. Gives me a nice hard surface. I don't plan on rubbing it at all. It's like bang, 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 and the job's done. When we go then into epoxy urethane primer, and obviously DP616 is what we're using on this car, and I've been using it forever and I love the product. I'm not going to go into that now, but there are other epoxies. So there's the 2K, which is in the Epotec.
Epotec, from our Protec range,
Now, it's a different product again to the DP616. Explain us a little bit about what the
Epotec's a great product. Again, been around for a long time, but it goes rock hard. It's fantastic. If you want to paint on an undercarriage or internal areas or just paint something that you don't want to coat, the Epotec's great. You can use that, but when you try and sand it, it's quite hard.
So is there a timeline with that? Does it go hard straight away? Or if I know a lot of people use it on the outside. A lot of sandblasters use it. It's very cost effective. They'll put it on the outside. If you've got that on, if you use it on the outside of a car, of a build, is there a timeline where it's not too bad to sand and then it goes hard, or is it pretty much hard?
Once it cures, it's hard. It goes rock hard. And the other thing with something like that epoxy is you can't use it wet on wet with a spray polyester. So here's where DP616 comes in. We can put body filler, hand applied over it. We can use it wet on wet with spray polyester, with primer, so it's a bit more universal. Whereas something like Epotec is not as universal. And then an etch primer is basically only has one function, to stick to the metal.
So I like the 616 primarily because I can put it on. If I want to do a little bit of welding on the edges, it doesn't fry up. It just changes to a red colour and it's really functional that way. But it doesn't, I'm not looking for a massive amount of build film out of the epoxy, which I've spoken to other custom guys and they like the Epotec because it gives them some build. Should they be using it to get build, or is that just the nature of the product?
It depends what you want the build for. If you just want to paint it and leave it, the build's good. But if you're ready to prime the job or spray poly it, you can put a coat of the 616 on. In 20 minutes, you can have a good look at it and say, am I ready to prime it? Have I missed something? Did I miss a ripple? Did I miss some deep scratches? You can give it a quick sand. So you've still got that option. Once you put an amine epoxy on or the Epotec type epoxy, then it's wet for a long time. You've got to wait for it to completely chemically dry, and then you've got to sand it and start again.
Okay, so just to sort of recap, because this gets a little bit confusing. So we've got the acid etch for the hard stuff, and we go to an epoxy, and we've got a couple of different products there, or 3 different products, the CF, for the brackets and the industrial chassis, those sorts of things. When we then go to that next stage, I like to use the epoxy almost like a trace coat. So I'll do the 616, then I'll do my filler, then I'll do epoxy again, and I use normally a 1.4, where I know it probably should be a 1.8, because I'm just looking to get a nice coat on there to seal it off, and if I'm happy, I'm ready to go. And I'm not looking to get a whole lot of build film out of the epoxy, because I'm either going to prime it with a high build primer, or if I think I need to, depending on the job, I'm going to go with a poly. And a poly, guys, is basically filler in the gun, isn't it?
Absolutely. Liquid body filler.
Liquid body filler. So it.